All right, and let's just get started. On behalf of CBI and our guest speakers, it is my pleasure to welcome you to this webinar on doing business with the Netherlands, a gateway to Europe's apparel markets. My name is Meert van der Gaast. I am a program manager and market intelligence at CBI, and I will be your host for today. However, before we get started, let me just quickly run you through the tool that we are using today to host this webinar, which is called GoToWebinar. It is a rather simple tool with only a few elements that are really relevant. Kindly be informed that we cannot hear or see you. So the only way for you to communicate with us is by using the question box. So if you have a particular question on today's topic for our speakers, please make sure to use this question box. And we will do our best throughout the whole session, but also during the Q&A at the end to answer your question. If we do, however, run out of time, we will follow up in written form. Also in the background, please be informed there's another CBI colleague of mine here to answer some of your questions, and know that this webinar is being recorded and will be published afterwards on our website as well as YouTube channel. And as well, the slides will also be shared with you via the mail. Finally, at the end of the webinar, we kindly ask if you can complete a very short survey and share your feedback and suggestions for us on how to improve our webinar. Perfect, so now we are all set. However, before we dive into today's program and the speakers, I would like to share with you a little bit of a nice historical fact, which feels very fitting for today as we're talking about the Netherlands. So today, maybe some of you know, but today used to be quite a special day in the Netherlands. Until a few years ago, it was actually our national holiday known as Queen's Day, the day when the entire country celebrated our former Queen's birthday. And the streets would really turn into this sea of orange with everyone dressed from head to toe in orange, which is our national color. Today, however, we have a king. So the celebration was moved to the 27th of April, 3 days ago. And now it is known as King's Day. We still wear the orange, as you can see, and we really love orange products. But the Netherlands offers far more opportunities than just exporting apparel products, which we will discuss today. It is actually the fourth largest apparel importer in Europe. It is a key center for denim and home to many innovative brands and sustainability pioneers. So over the next 1.5 hours, we have a very interesting program for you in store. After a very short introduction from my side, we will kick things off with a presentation by Frans Tilstra on the key facts and figures about the Dutch apparel markets. All right, I see here, Frans, maybe you can wave to our audience. Excellent, all right. Thank you so much for joining us. And an interesting fact about Frans is that he's also the lead market researcher for CBI's apparel studies. And he has a lot of knowledge on topics such as sustainability, innovation, and new business models. So we look very forward to hear from you, Frans. Next, we will hear from Edwin van den Broek. Edwin is really a seasoned sales expert with extensive experience in the apparel industry, working closely with retailers, brands all across Europe. Thank you so much, Edwin, for waving. And he really has a strong focus on the Dutch markets. And Edwin will share today his insight on really what drives success in the Dutch apparel market, including how to build meaningful buyer relationships. And finally, we will hear from Giovanni, who is a creative fashion entrepreneur, owner of Forward in Fashion, and also a business expert coach for various CBI projects in apparel. And Giovanni will really kind of round up today's topic, comparing the Netherlands with other European countries, sharing his take on what makes the Netherlands so unique. All right, we have the program, but before we go into our program, let me just show with you, and let me just steal a little bit more of your time and give you a bit of a background on CBI, the organization that is hosting this webinar. So CBI is the Center for Sustainable Trade and Production. We are a Dutch government agency funded by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and part of the Dutch Enterprise Agency. And what we do is we partner with SMEs and their ecosystem to strengthen their social and environmental sustainability. And we connect the SMEs from low and middle income countries to the European/Dutch markets, and we focus on promoting and creating decent jobs specifically for women, youth, contributing to inclusive economic growth. So the SMEs are really our starting point, and we offer practical solutions to eliminate bottlenecks experienced in the value chain. And sometimes this can be, for example, the lack of access to good quality market information. So we have a twofold approach. So first of all, we implement projects in our focus countries. You can find them all on our website. And secondly, we provide market information on how to export your products and services to the European markets. So we are active in 23 countries, mainly in Africa and Asia. And our work spans across 14 sectors, predominantly in the agricultural sector, but we also work in a couple of service sectors, including apparel. As you can see on the next slides, we work with a very broad range of actors, from local stakeholders, sector associations, export promotion agencies, ministries. And over the years, we have really built a very extensive network of international and local experts that we actively involve in our projects. So CBI, as I just mentioned, implements projects in our focus countries, and we have on average around 40 projects running at any time, lasting from 4 to 6 years. And over the years, we have really worked with more than 10,000 SMEs from 70 countries all over the world, connect them with the buyers or partners in the European or Dutch markets. And many of these projects, they focus on areas such as export marketing, matchmaking, product development, certification, corporate social responsibility, and so on. So you can see on this slide 2 of the current projects that we are running in apparel, one in Egypt and one in Tunisia. And we recently finished projects in Morocco and in Ethiopia leather. And we will also start new projects in Bangladesh on circular textile, leather, and also one on textile dyeing. Finally, just to conclude real quick, the market information. So as you can see here, we have over 30 years of experience in developing high quality market reports on the European markets for local SMEs and business support organizations. And these are studies such as market access requirements, tips on how to find buyers, how to organize your exports, a particular country or product fact sheets. And every year we publish over 300 market studies on our website. And all of these are free of charge. So please make sure to check them out yourself. I would really encourage you to do so. And you can also subscribe to our newsletter to really get the latest updates on new studies that are being published. That's it from my side. Frans, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Meerte, for the introduction, and thank you to the audience for joining today. My name is Frans Tilstra. I'm a market analyst and I work for CBI. And before we dive deep into the topic of doing business with Dutch apparel companies, I would like to give you a short and concise introduction into the Netherlands, my country of birth and my home country today. Next slide, please. So, if you've not been to the Netherlands, or if you're not too familiar yet with the Netherlands, could you? I would like to show you some pictures about the Netherlands. Meerte, the slides are going a little bit too quick. Thank you. If you can go one back, please. So perhaps you know the Netherlands from our windmills, which is actually a cultural icon for our country. The Netherlands is quite a flat and watery country on the northwestern part of Europe, a river delta actually. And if you don't know us from our world famous windmills, which attract a lot of tourists, maybe you know us from the tulip fields, which are in bloom actually in this time of year, which also world famous. Next slide, please. don't yet see the next slide. Yeah, you can go to the next one. So besides windmills and tulips and being a rather flat river delta and watery country, what the Netherlands is actually like, we're a country of around 18 million inhabitants, a population that is actually growing, mostly because of immigration. So the Netherlands is quite a diverse country as well. Around a quarter of Dutch people have a migration background. And you might also be familiar with the fact that we're a bike-loving country. So we love cycling. There's actually more than 24 million bicycles in the Netherlands, which makes the number of bicycles even greater than the number of people. So on average, Dutch people own more than one bike, actually. When you go to work in the Netherlands during commuting time, you might see people in a three-piece suit on a bike. That actually happens not too often. Most people ride their bicycles in really comfortable clothing. And we also ride our bikes to school. We ride our bikes for fun, for hobby on the weekends, but we're really a cycling-loving country. What you might also know about the Dutch is that we're among the tallest people in the world. There is no real scientific explanation for this fact, but it's true. So the average male in the Netherlands is 181 centimeters tall, and the average female 167 centimeters tall, which is quite tall compared to other populations. The climate in the Netherlands, we do have a mild sea climate, but we do have seasons. So the winters are not too cold, the summers are not too hot, but we do have 4 distinct seasons. And in the Netherlands, we also like to complain about how much rainfall we get. Well, actually, it's not that much rainfall. We get rainfall around 7% of the time, and even due to climate change, rain patterns are becoming more unpredictable. And currently, right now in the Netherlands, we are suffering from a dry period. So, but we do tend to have most people tend to have raincoats and umbrellas, and we like to complain about the rainfall, but we're actually not. We don't suffer from that much rainfall in reality. The Netherlands is also quite a rich country relatively. So the actual individual consumption is around 32,000 euros a year, which puts us in second place in the EU. And the Netherlands is also a country that embraced online shopping very early, and currently around 85 to 90% of the people shop online in the Netherlands for all types of items, including apparel. Most of the people, the fashion consumers in the Netherlands, say they value sustainability, but not unlike other countries, it's only a minority that actually shops sustainably in practice. Next slide, please. So about famous brands, you might know the Netherlands from famous brands such as Heineken, the beer company, which used to be the most famous Dutch brand around the world. I think first place is now actually Booking, which is an online booking platform for hotels. But when we look at apparel brands, the most well-known brands are actually retail chains and brands such as G-Star, C&A, We Fashion. These are brands that originated in the Netherlands, and they have multiple stores right now in Europe and sometimes even around the world. And because of the business climate in the Netherlands, we also are home to some European headquarters of foreign brands, including Tommy Hilfiger, Nike, and Patagonia. So when you investigate the Dutch apparel market, you might come across these brands. Next slide, please. So this is, like I said, where we are located. The Netherlands is in northwestern Europe, quite a small country by size, and we are in a river delta. Next slide, please. And as Meerte already mentioned, we might be a small country by size and also by population size, but we're actually the fourth largest importer of apparel in Europe by value. And the Netherlands is also a growing apparel market. And what makes the Netherlands also rather special is that we do import a relatively large share of our apparel from developing economies. And this is also, in absolute terms, a growing share. And next slide, please. What you can imagine is that these apparel imports are not all consumed in the Netherlands themselves. So we could say that the Netherlands is actually a distribution hub, a gateway to the rest of Europe. And as you see here, we actually re-export around 90% of the apparel that we import, which is above average in Europe. So some of the major exporters to the Netherlands are China, Germany, Bangladesh, Turkey, Vietnam, and Poland. And when we look at developing economies, we see countries like China, Bangladesh, Turkey, Vietnam, India, and Cambodia being the major exporters of apparel to the Netherlands today. Next slide, please. So this concludes our very short and concise introduction into the Netherlands, and I would like to give the floor to Edwin.
Yes, thank you, Frans. Good morning. Just a small introduction. Edwin van der Broek. I'm Dutch, at the moment, sales person working for several wholesaling companies in several apparel markets. Before I did for 10 years buying for a wholesale company and a retail organization. So it's a wide range of activities from the last year. What I would like to do is to give you my point of view of the Dutch market, working with buyers, working with bigger clients, higher level, lower level, etc. Next slide, please. As Frans mentioned as well, the Netherlands is a very interesting and basic organized country, small, located central, which is very important, of course, if you want to do export and traveling across Europe. When you start in Holland, you are in 2 hours in Paris, in 2 hours in Germany, 1.5 in Belgium. So markets are open for you starting in Holland. The multicultural side is very important to know, because that makes the market that you bring very interesting for the market that we have in Holland as well. Open-minded, hardworking, as the average temperature is not that high and not that cold. We work throughout the day, starting early. Climate is stable, therefore, so not too much trouble with raining or snow or windies or whatever. And last but not least, financial strong. And that's a part that I want to just at the end, because there I think we have a new situation in wholesaling The financial side is not only coming from you, but is also coming from your partners among Dutch retailers. And that's something new, I think, to look at for you to bring your info and your goods to Holland. Next slide, please. So I want to start just to give you an idea for Holland, which it's not only the heart of Europe, but it's for sure I think your starting point. Of course, you can go to Scandinavia up north, or go to Spain or France, but then your travel time is much more than when you start in Holland. You reach easily 500 million people all through Europe if you start in Holland with a travel time from 2 to 3 hours. It means that that's more than the US. So that's an easy look at Europe to see and to travel. If you travel by plane or even by train, you can reach a lot of countries in the easy way. Therefore, what we see is that, for instance, German clients or German retailers, like for instance TK Maxx, have Dutch buyers. For example, KBC in Belgium have Dutch buyers. They we like our language. We speak English, we speak Dutch, we speak French. So it's an easy start to work with. For the better part, I think Frans mentioned the good items for Holland. So next slide, please. Yes. The Dutch market. What I'm trying to do is that, of course, you know that the biggest airport is in Amsterdam. The biggest sea transport is in Rotterdam. So these two starting points are well known and easy for you to use and to bring items or to show items to the bigger retailers in Holland. I made a list of well-known and interesting retailers in denims, in basic items, in your everyday items, in price aggressive items, and more like Nora. Nora is in the meantime a Dutch retailer, over 100 stores, close to Amsterdam, very easy to reach, only women's clothing. Stable. For instance, Webra on the other side of Holland is over 150 stores at the moment. Easy to reach as well. Use your contact. Use your items that you have that you think. Look at the websites, of course. But these are clients that are easy to reach. You can make contact in an easy way and show them your products. That's not the difficult part. The difficult part is to know and to make contact. Of course, if you have the right connection. But when you're there, you're practically in if you have the good items. That's not for sure the problem. Next slide, please. Then I can show you the diversity of high level and the risks that we have. For instance, G-Star is a more high level denim producer, well known all around the world, very trendy, but higher level brings, of course, more risks in terms of your compliance, your sustainability, more risks in timing. I think smaller orders are also the situation. And then when you go a little bit low, Van Haren, Nora, MS Mode is more mid-level, bigger orders. I think more easy to approach. Hema, Action, Webra, and Zeeman are the more lower level, bigger orders. And the price level is, of course, more a discussion. But for sure, they are reachable. And that's what the next part will show you, that when you have the good connection, these type of clients have for sure their options for you. Like to start Action. Action is the biggest at the moment in all of Europe, over 3,000 stores, 14 countries, 16 billion euro last year. So this is a very interesting, I think, for the majority of producers to look at. They do not, or not so much produce themselves. They like to work with suppliers who bring the goods to Europe and to show, okay, this is what we can do. This is what we have. Do you have a large stock? Action is for sure one of the retailers who was interested in your stock, buying that at one time. They for sure had a big growth in the last 3 to 4 years, also due to COVID. And they have an amazing system with over 10 supply chains situations all over Europe, where they supply their own stores in Italy, in Spain, in France. So this is for sure one of the more interesting clients I think people can look at. Getting back to the situation I mentioned at the beginning, oh please, one back, Mirte, is that what we see at the moment with also Zeeman is doing this, Vibra is doing this. I think international, we have more of these kinds of clients, is that Action is truly an option for many suppliers. What they do is when you're in, you're in. But then they ask 60 days payment, 120 days payment. And that's of course because they use you as more or less the bank. They try to sell the items before the 60 days, and then after 60 days they make extra money, of course, on top of the margin they make on your product. But what they also have is that when you are in, you get the option to have not 60 days, but for instance 30 days. And of course, it will cost you money, but it can also help you. And this is what we see at the moment with the bigger retailers all through Europe, is that they practically use the situation as a bank to be the bank and to be the financial help to suppliers. Okay, if you can do this more quickly, if we can do the payment more quickly, we take a percentage, 1, 2. But we do this, and I know from my experience that a lot of producers for Actions and suppliers, are helping, and they have, especially at the end of the year, they use these kinds of systems to make orders for to have the financial stability for the orders for the next year. So this is something I think what makes Action and the bigger clients in Europe more interesting. And it's a situation what started, I think, 2-3 years ago after COVID. Just for the information. Next slide, please. This is more a personal one. As a salesperson in the past, and this is a true story. I made the picture more or less myself yesterday. What we like in Holland, the Dutch mentality, is a combination of good information, humor, straightforward, and just a simple information connection, and a big smile. To have some extra humor to it. In the past, I was a salesperson for a company. We made jackets, lady jackets, and at that time, MS Mode in Holland was one of the biggest, over 100 stores. And well, it was difficult to get in, a meeting. But after trying, I think for months, I had a meeting, and I thought, okay, this is a one-time shot. And a one-time shot means that, okay, you need to get out of your normal system. The jacket or the product is not doing it by itself. It's I'm not the only one who's giving this this option. Maybe price-wise, I have some options, but that's for sure not enough. So I thought, okay, I have to do this differently. And at that time, MS Mode was more for the 50-year older ladies, and which was of course fine. And at that time, my mother, as beautiful as she always is, I thought, hey, this could be something that to do so. So I made a trip to Amsterdam with my mother. This was 99% for me the fun, of course. But we went to M&S Mode, and I presented, I think, over 50 jackets. My mother showed; she was the princess of the day, and I think the best fun at the end of the day was that the buyer was asking for, are you related? I said, yeah, okay, I'm not lying, of course, but yeah, this is my mother, but I want to show you, yeah, what our jackets can do. And then you have a different conversation. My story to it is be yourself, have some fun, and try to think out of the box in the normal way. That will bring you a lot of options and a lot of good ways of working with Dutch buyers. It's not that stiff as many think. There's a lot of options to do so, and yeah, I think this shows, okay, and this story is more than 15 years old, but still it works. So maybe it will help. Next slide, please. Giovanni, the floor is yours. Thank you.
I think there is a little bit of a problem with your sound. Maybe it's better if you use not the headphones.
Yes, is this better?
This is absolutely better. Yes. All right. So I will give the floor back to you, and I would suggest you start from the beginning again.
Thank you, Mette. So my name is Giovanni Beatrice, and I've been in apparel manufacturing over 35 years. I'm 57, and I know Edwin, I think, already 30 years. And by coincidence, in 2013, I was approached by CBI and asked if I would do a presentation in Myanmar. At that time, a new source for jacket manufacturing, and that's how my career as a consultant started. So it was so nice to be able to use my experience in another way besides manufacturing, and that's how I started. I'm doing programs for CBI in several countries, currently in Egypt, in Bangladesh, and in Tunisia, and where we always work with a group of manufacturers next to the government, and where we try to educate them, try to support them on different topics that have been identified, with the ultimate goal of exporting to the European market. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, a quick poll. I would like to ask you one question, and please share your ideas. What makes the Netherlands an interesting export destination? What do you think? Oh, interesting. Okay. Thank you for the contribution. I saw two major ones that were selected. One was easy doing business, and second, if you sell to the Netherlands, you can sell anywhere. It's very funny because it's a little bit of a contradiction. Ease of doing business, forget about it. The Netherlands is not easy. We are traders already for centuries. We know where to buy. We know what the price is. If you can work with the Netherlands, you can work in any other country. Edwin showed us that from a practical perspective. You travel to the Netherlands, so you have easy access to Germany and other countries, correct? But the Netherlands export to these countries, which means that they are in between. They buy and sell. So working with the Netherlands is not only difficult, but also highly competitive. So no, it is not easy. Does it mean there are no opportunities? Yes, for sure, there are opportunities. So what my advice always is, once you start selecting a country within the EU, realize that every country is different. Yeah, and every culture is different, which means that every trend is different, colors are different, qualities are different, price level is different. Every country is different. I often compare Italy with the Netherlands. I'm originally from Italy, but I was brought up in the Netherlands. Italy has a strong manufacturing background. So doing business with Italy means that people look at you from a manufacturing perspective. In the Netherlands, we are traders. So we look from a different perspective. Of course, compliance, legislation is all first selection criteria, but in the end, it is all about price. Yeah, and France is more fashion related. France will focus more on styling. So every country has their own characteristics, and you need to decide what characteristics suits you as a company, because you cannot supply everybody. So before you consider exporting to a country, do your research. You already have received some data through Edwin and Frans, which is really, really good. It starts with data, but it also starts with market characteristics, for example. And you know about the EU Green Deal. There is a lot of talk about new legislation. It's important you know it. Legislation means it's non-negotiable. You need to comply. And then you have the non-legal requirements, which are the buyer requirements, of which one is, for example, payment condition. When I started in the business, we always laughed about Italy. They ask a payment condition of 150 days. Are you serious? Now we are also doing that in the Netherlands. These are non-legal requirements, buyer requirements. Are you able to service them or not? It's crucial. Identify and study potential buyers and look for that niche. Edwin mentioned CNA, Action. These are big names, international names, and you can imagine they're easy to find online, so highly competitive. Often they have their own buying offices, like CNA has Canada, and which makes it even more complicated. So is it easy to get into these organizations? No. You have a long checklist. Before you even come to a meeting, you have a long checklist that you need to comply to. So what would be my point of entry? It's a niche market. So looking at the statistics Frans shared with us, one point he said is we like to ride bicycles. So clothing for bicycles is a very good niche. 7% of rain in the Netherlands. Rain jackets is a very good niche. Try to enter a market through a niche. And you can find niche markets, believe me. Pet clothing is also a niche. Sportswear, for sports clubs, is also a good niche. So there are several niches, and focus first on that. Once you start working in a country, you will see you'll build your expertise. You get to know the culture, you get to know the way of doing business, and you can decide this suits me or not. And then automatically it will grow. Yeah. Study country trends handwriting. Frans shared the data that we are a multi-culti society. Yes, what does it mean, a multi-culti society? That we are focused on different trends and tastes. We have the high fashion items in Amsterdam, and we have perhaps the Islamic wear in Rotterdam. So it's a big diversity of trends and therefore market entries. Study country statistics, import, export. It's also an important one. Often people say, I want to do business with the Netherlands because of denim. Netherlands is the denim country in the EU. They're right. Yeah. But does it mean the Netherlands buys a lot of denim? Because we only have 18 million people. What do you think? Yeah. Then develop a country access strategy. And why did I put this picture of this boat? It's easy to lose money. It's easy to invest. You need to travel. You need to send parcels. You need to make confirmation samples once you get into business. And believe me, opening a door to a buyer will cost you a year. It's calling, it's mailing, it's visiting fairs, it's talking to people, etc., before you have this meeting that you want to have. So it's easy to lose money. You need to decide, what is my budget? How much am I going to invest in order to open doors to this country and these buyers? If at one certain point you are not succeeding, stop it. Go to the next country. It just doesn't work. So the sinking ship is easy if you just continue going because you have one buyer. And in fact, you're not earning money in this one buyer, but perhaps there's a potential of a second one. 2-3 years later, you're only losing money. Next one. So have shown this, you've seen this video of this picture also from Edwin and Frans. And why is this important? The Netherlands is part of Europe. I remember asking one time a question, was one of my first programs in Myanmar, a group of factories, and I asked, so where do you want to export to? And nobody replied anything. And then one finger was raised and this guy said, Greece. And I said, why Greece? He said, because I have friends in Greece. So, of course, that's not an argument, but you will be surprised if you see why people sometimes target specific countries. Well, my neighbor factory is doing so good business with the Netherlands. I also want to do business with the Netherlands. That's not the criteria. You need to realize that doing business with a country means that you need to identify yourself with the culture, not only the doing business culture, but also the trends and the products. We in the Netherlands are practical people. We want to throw every item we buy in the washing machine and then wear it again. So what if you only sell cashmere? Do you think the Netherlands is a good country to sell cashmere? No, it's not. So really study the market. We are pragmatic. We are direct. No is no, yes is yes. We will never say no and then do yes or the other way around. So we expect the same from our business partners. Yeah, people that say yes but do not deliver are not appreciated. So we will be kicked out. You need to comply to our expectations. We have an international trading spirit. Our biggest country of export is Germany. A cycling culture. It offers opportunity. Yes, we value our living standard. We value our freedom. We value our flexibility. These are all things that influence fashion. Flexibility, outdoor, nature has impact on fashion. We like practical items, washable items, water-resistant items. So if you are not able to supply these items, then stay off. The Netherlands is not suitable for you and select another country. We have strong social systems, education, healthcare. Strong social systems, education, healthcare means workwear. Workwear is a fast-growing potential in the Dutch market. Freedom and tolerance. Yes, we are a very free country and a very tolerant country, which is proven by the fact that we are a multi-cultural country. We like innovation. ASML is our #1 pride in the Netherlands. We like to innovate and design, but often innovate reflects not only by new products that offer a service to a different niche, but also added value on existing products, like, for example, water resistant or water repellent or antibacterial finishing and things like that. And there's one thing also, if we talk about innovation, that is very, very crucial for the Netherlands, which is circularity. We are one of the market leading countries on circularity, which means our demand is growing for circular products. Are you able to supply or not? And then we have a long cultural heritage, as you might know. We are very proud about our cultural heritage. Next slide. Okay, the Netherlands, part of the European Union. Yes, we are the second largest importer. But we re-export. We export to countries within the EU, which makes us a highly competitive country. And yes, if you can work with us, I truly believe you can work with any other country in the EU. If you can manage our price level and our requirements, you can work with any other country in the EU. The Netherlands act as a major distribution hub. It's what Edwin also said, so I'm not going to say anything more about that. EU versus non-EU import. It's always important, if you look at statistics, that you understand what it says. So we import from countries within the EU and from countries outside of the EU. So even if products that are imported from outside of the EU are redistributed within the EU. So it can be a little bit confusing sometimes if you study the data, but here's where it starts. Does your product category, let's presume you manufacture denim, is that being imported into Netherlands? How much from inside the EU? How much from outside the EU? What is the price level? What is the quality level, etc., etc. Before you even consider approaching any buyer, study the data. Next slide. Okay, we have 18 million people growing every day. High population density. It comes with also problems of housing, problems of transport, but also offers opportunity. Everybody rides a bike, so consider doing a bike collection, for example. The ethnic composition, this influences our trend. Sizes, for example, they're huge in the north and they are small in the area of Rotterdam. So where your potential customer is represented, where do they have the stores, also influences the trends and the size specs you are delivering. Our community, our Dutch community, includes people from Turkey, Morocco, Indonesian, and Suriname. Next one. So, a quick question. Next slide, Berthe. How does demography and culture influence business? I already explained it a little bit, but show me that you understood what I said. Yeah, the funny thing here is if we look at the statistics, everybody selected a topic, and in fact, all topics are right. Yeah, it shows also the potential of the niche markets, growing age, second-hand market. These are all potential markets. So it all influences our country and our demand. Yeah, and there are many more ways how demography and culture influences the business. And yes, these are some, and they're all right. Yeah. Next one, Mirte. Okay, economy. What is important to understand is how much money do we earn? So how much money can we spend? How much money do we spend on buying clothing? These are all important data. But then again, if you study this data and you look at this data specifically for the Netherlands, and you're targeting a customer that has only stores in the Netherlands, then you are correct. But often customers have stores throughout Europe. And then this data is, of course, not entirely correct, because they're also selling in Italy, they're also selling in Germany and in other countries. So that's why you need to study the market, and you need to study your customer very carefully. I always say you need to have a list of 100 prospects, approach them to, in the end, have 2 or 3 doors opened. And this is a continuous process. Often I see people invest in market entry activities. Once they lose a customer, sorry, it's too late. This needs to be a continuous process. Next one. So I'm very proud about living in the Netherlands. Living and working is great in the Netherlands, and we are very entrepreneurial. We have a lot of startups in the Netherlands. We try to be different in the Netherlands, and our economy is very strong. Especially if we talk about payment, you know, you want to be safe. You want to. We've seen it at Corona. What it does once money or orders are cancelled or payments are not being done, the impact is huge and often, unfortunately, on the shoulders of the manufacturer. And so it's important you do business with a strong, financially strong country and financially strong buyer. And the finance of a buyer you can always check up on with an insurance company if you have any doubts. And you see the GDP, the Netherlands rank a high GDP. So it's an interesting market from that perspective. Next one. Quick question. Next one. Yes. How many denim garments does the Netherlands import yearly? Share your thoughts. If you would only look at this data and you go for the top one, 25 to 55 million, it means that every person in the Netherlands buys 2 denims each year, minimum. Yeah, so it's very funny. Yeah? So you can already see that we don't buy only for the Dutch market. Yeah. Next slide, then I'll tell you the quantity. So from outside the EU, it's 50% of denim. We buy a total, that's Germany. Germany buys a total of 90 to 100 million, and the Dutch, we buy a total of 52 to 62 million, which in comparison to the size of German is a huge amount. So yes, for denim, the Netherlands is a perfect country to focus on. And then inside the EU, we buy yet another 33 to 43 million garments a year. So the Netherlands is a good denim country, but we also export our denims to neighboring countries. Next one. Okay, this is an overview. We will share it. I see I have a little bit of a time issue because I still have so much to tell. So this is for your reference. You can see all the import-export data per country, which is also important. Is of course related also to volume. And it's important for you to understand what country to focus on if you study this data. Next one. Okay, so where is the opportunity? And this is a nice one. First of all, I often get the question, Gio, can you call some buyers? We want to have some meetings. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not as easy as it is. Calling a buyer, mailing a buyer often has no effect. So second option is LinkedIn. LinkedIn sometimes works, yeah, if you have the right things to say. And I can tell you, I receive contacts through LinkedIn many times every day, which I ignore. Yeah. So what is the way to enter the European market or the Dutch market? Well, first of all, you need to understand that doing business is all about chemistry. Yeah. And if you go to a fair, you meet buyers. So I often highly recommend go to fairs where brands are presented, like the Modefabriek in the Netherlands. There, you're able to talk to people. Don't forget, often it's a sales fair. Be friendly. Don't start selling yourself from day one. It's not about, hey, I'm from Italy and I want to show you my factory. It doesn't work. People automatically break and say, no, I'm sorry, not interested. Yeah. What I often do is if I go to the fair, I say, wow, this is a nice product. Where is it being produced? And they say, well, we buy this in I don't know, in Bangladesh. And I said, oh, okay. Did you ever consider also buying this in China? Because I'm from China. And that's how a conversation starts. It's chemistry between people. That's how it starts. And don't be too aggressive. Yeah. And I don't know if you ever seen the movie where a person said, sell me this pen. It's all about not selling. You are not there to sell yourself or sell your organization direct. You're there to sell your organization indirect, but not direct. What does it mean? It means that business starts with a problem. And believe me, every buyer in apparel has a problem. Yeah. So once you start to understand their problem and you're able to offer them a solution to their problem, then that's how business starts. So my recommendation is always ask questions. How is business going? How are your t-shirts selling? Do you have any problems with compliance or whatever? And then if they say, oh, my t-shirts, I buy them currently in, I don't know, in Germany, but they're so expensive. Well, I got an opportunity for you. I can do it cheaper. You know, that's the way in. Business starts with a problem often. So what do we see? Where's the opportunity? I identified two. We see a lot of new legislation coming up. And the big companies like CNA, they have the money, they have the capacity to follow up on this legislation. But we have a lot of new companies, especially those online companies. And don't be mistaken, new companies doesn't mean 2 million turnover. We have these new companies who do 40 million turnover, yeah, online, which is a great achievement. But often these companies started by people who didn't have a clue about manufacturing apparel. And it just happened. And now they're doing 40 million turnover. And suddenly there's this new legislation. We need to have the digital product passport. We need to comply. How the heck, as a small company, are we able to comply? That's where you need the right supplier. That's why you need the supplier that is able to help you with compliance. And that is where partnership is changing. It goes beyond production. It's no longer about my factory is compliant or my product has the right price and the right quality. It's about how I, as a manufacturing organization, can help you to comply to local legislation. Yeah. So change your service, go beyond production. Digital product passport is one. If you already offer the service of all our products have a digital product passport, a lot of buyers will already be really relieved. Next one. Yeah. So as I said, we have a lot of online companies, and they don't have a big experience on manufacturing apparel. They know what they can sell. They can sell anything. Yeah. They reach their public and they can measure, and that's the key to their success. So what are they looking for? They're not looking for a supplier that's able to produce for the cheapest price. The perfect supplier is their partner that takes care of all the manufacturing, puts the products on their doorstep, and their focus is only sales. They don't want to be bothered with design and size specs, etc., because it means you need to invest in people and capacity in order to grow up their organization. Most easy is if they just find an organization that gives them the ability to just focus on what they're good at, which is selling online. So if you target online companies, which I can also highly recommend, make sure you think about the service level that these customers require. Next one. Well, that's it for now. I think I'm right on time. And well, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. I think there are hardly any questions, which surprises me because normally we have many. So please fire away and we'll try to reply each and every one.
Right. Thank you so much, Gio. And indeed, that was right on time. So as you can see, we have now entered the Q&A phase. So we highly encourage you to use the question box, which is on top of this menu to ask any of the questions, ideally also addressing which of the speakers you want to have these questions being addressed to. In the meantime, I would like to ask all the speakers to turn their camera on, as I actually have some questions myself. So we've heard a lot today about doing business with the Netherlands, and Edwin, you have also shared a few personal anecdotes. I'm quite curious to hear from you, as we know, what would you say that a Dutch buyer really needs to see in kind of this first interaction to take an SME supplier seriously? Are there certain elements, signals where you think that can really make a difference?
Yes, thank you, Mette, for the question. But I think trust, of course, is liability number one. And trust you get when you know all the roads to take in terms of compliance, sustainability, the DDP, as Giovanni mentioned, of course. If you know the road to this subject, this let's say problem for many people, then you get trust and you move further quickly. Yeah, that's for sure, in my opinion, the road to do.
All right, excellent. We have a question coming in for Giovanni, as you have indeed been involved working on projects of CBI involving Tunisia. To what extent do you believe that new sustainability requirements in Dutch markets, such as the denim circularity initiatives, recycled content requirements, the digital product passport, stricter chemical and water standards, and the extended producer responsibility will really affect Tunisia's apparel exports, particularly regarding denim in the long term?
Yeah, well, interesting question. I know Tunisia really well, and Tunisia has a unique position in the market. The customers they serve, like Hugo Boss, Lacoste, are top of the line. And the Tunisian manufacturer for denim I've seen are top manufacturers and very compliant, very smart. So yes, in this price level and the requested service level, Tunisians are very capable of complying to the standards. However, there are challenges. If we talk about circularity, there are legal challenges. An opportunity, for example, is that as the second-hand market is one of the fastest selling markets, it means that brands that collect products need to repair and wash. So where do we do it? Not in the Netherlands. We're way too expensive. So we are looking for countries nearby Europe that can help us with it. Unfortunately, it's not possible from a legal perspective to import these products into, for example, Tunisia, to recondition them, and that will enable us to resell it. So there are some hurdles to take, but looking at nearshoring, there is a huge request for nearshoring. There's a huge movement towards more nearshoring. And yes, there is a big opportunity for Tunisia, but also for the other countries that are situated nearby the EU. I hope this replied your question.
Yeah, so to kind of summarize, because there was a follow-up question as well, like would it either reduce Tunisia's competitiveness, or would you say here that it really kind of creates the opportunities for those that adapt quickly?
Yes, it's first adapters. I mean, I see companies who struggle with just basic compliance. Does it mean there is no business? No, of course there's business. They can service the local market. They can service the smaller retailers that perhaps have less requirements than the bigger retailers. But if you want to get your market share exporting to the EU, compliance is key. And we have a lot of rules and regulations, and first movers will be the ones taking the first business.
All right. Next question. Maybe Frans, I think I heard you, or maybe it was Gio, but can you give some examples of leading exhibitions where you would find a lot of Dutch buyers in apparel?
I think that's a question that Giovanni can answer best.
Well, on fairs, you have different fairs. for example, the sourcing fair in Paris, it's all about manufacturers presenting their products. And if you target new buyers, then that's not the best fair to visit. So if you, for example, target buyers in the Netherlands, then I would recommend the Modefabriek. There are Dutch brands represented there, and you can go there and get easy access. If you target, for example, France, then the fair Who's Next is a good one. There are also, well, there are international brands, not only French brands there, and you have easy access. So every country has a smaller fair where local brands are represented, and that would be my first strategy if I want to start up some business.
All right. So someone is asking a little bit more details regarding the fabric segments. Maybe, Edwin, maybe you have a little bit of background here. They're asking particularly regarding the kind of gray fabrics in the Netherlands. Do you know if buyers in the Netherlands typically import these kind of fabrics, process them locally into finished textiles, or is the market more focused on trading in ready-made products?
Hi, Mette. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I do think Giovanni is, because he's more like a producer, and me as a salesperson is not that much into the quality race of fabrics. I think Giovanni is more in the production side.
What I see on fabrics is that it works two ways. You have companies that purchase fabrics, yeah, but that's honestly not so many. It means they work based on CM or CMT. Only those companies who want to make a difference, a specific difference, like Studio Analyst, they have this very, very special fabric, and they want all their suppliers to purchase the fabric there. So fabric suppliers get nominated. Yeah, that is, if I would sell fabrics, that is what I would target, to get nominated. We also have traders that buy fabrics on stock and deliver it to people that take care of small-time manufacturing, for example. And then we have, of course, some big organizations, but often they also work with nominated suppliers. So get nominated, and then you have 10 factories that buy your fabric on behalf of this specific customer. That would be my suggestion.
All right. So we do have a question regarding sales. I hope this one, yeah, you have some insights on this one, Edwin. So someone is asking with regards to the ultra fast fashion, so the Temus and the Sheins of this world, how would you say that kind of affects the low to mid apparel market in the Netherlands?
Sorry, Emmett, can you ask me the question again?
So what the effects are of really the ultra fast fashion of the Temus and the Shein, what their effects are on, let's say, the kind of low mid apparel market? Would you say they're completely dominating that segment?
Yeah, they do. Well, it's a penny market. It's quick, it's fast. It's of course, price is the number one strategy in these items. For sure, it would not be my first item to try to have your first appearance. As Giovanni mentioned, Nice is much more interested and maybe much quicker to do so. But yeah, for sure, it measures, of course, your capability of production. If you can do many items in basic styles for the good price and the good quality, you're strong to do so. And if you have your compliance to it, yeah, that's a good way to start. In my opinion, I would not start with these items, as price is key, and this is the most difficult way to start.
Yes.
Can I add something to that, Mirte?
Yeah.
Ultra fast fashion is great, and but there are two perspectives to look at it. If we talk about ultra fast fashion, fast manufacturing to what the market trend is, then that's great, because we produce what the market requests. We measure, everybody wants a blue t-shirt, we make blue t-shirts fast, and we sell blue t-shirts. Great. But if we refer to fast fashion as buying a product of medium to low quality, throwing it away after one-time use, then that's bad. That's not what we want. And that's where it gets confusing sometimes, because if we talk about ultra fast fashion, people mix these two different things up. Ultra fast fashion, one-time use, don't focus on that. The contrary is happening. We want products to last for 10 years. But if you are able to react fast to market trends, then that is absolutely an added value.
Okay, we have another kind of dilemma, chicken or the egg kind of first problem. That is actually, what would you recommend SMEs to first maybe invest in compliance, or kind of first go for selling to small buyers who have perhaps minimum requirements?
I think I would start small with experienced buyers. Of course, compliance is very important, but the smaller the buyer is, the smaller the quantity, the compliance will come. Of course, don't forget it. But to learn and to start smaller buyers, smaller orders, I think is a good way to start.
Yeah, I want to add one thing. Compliance need to follow profitability. It's no use to invest full in compliance and you don't earn any money. So first money, then compliance.
Okay, I see maybe a question regarding statistics. So Frans, someone perhaps, I think we showed a lot of statistics today during the presentation. You, of course, work a lot analyzing a lot of trade statistics. What would be some recommendations for someone to look for consumption data, import data on apparel, and specifically the Dutch market? Where would you recommend them to go?
The CBI website. That's exactly where you need to be for this kind of data, and also the interpretations, because there's a lot of data going around about imports and consumption, and this is exactly what we do at CBI. So if you go to cbi.eu/apparel, you will find a lot of market reports, as Meert already mentioned, not only on gross import data, but on many apparel segments. So, and in addition, topics such as sustainability, doing business, logistics, cost calculation. So there's information on many topics relating to the apparel business. So that's where I would first go if you want to look up data on the European, but in particular also the Dutch market.
Okay, excellent, thank you. So indeed, CBI is really kind of this kind of collection where a lot of the different information comes together. But as Frans also shared, is also the interpretation of what it means for you, which indeed is very useful. Another question, very short question, but to you, Edwin, what would you say is actually just the easiest way to contact a Dutch buyer?
If you have a contact in Holland who has, of course, many contacts of a bigger network to the buyers, and that's I think the best way to do so. Just come to Holland and drive around is for sure not the way. Fairs, of course, is very important, as Giovanni mentioned. But I think a middleman with good contacts and a well-known network is very important.
And kind of to follow up on this, we have another question. So maybe for you or for Giovanni, is someone who is really asking how can an SME identify the most relevant local trade fairs for them? What is the best way to collaborate with them separately, perhaps for fabrics and apparel, and other ways to effectively identify and connect with the right buyers, in your opinion?
Gio?
Yeah, okay. So there were like three questions in one. Number one was?
How to identify the right apparel trade fair.
Trade fair. Well, I always use my dear friend ChatGPT, and but then double check, because there are some fairs, some new fairs that are highly promoting, and in the end not worth it. So always double check with somebody from the market before you go and invest.
All right. And what would you say is the best way to kind of collaborate with them?
With the trade fairs?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always a difficult one. Because you are a startup, and you know, fairs want people to participate, so you can always negotiate. You can always say, listen, I'm looking for this, I want only half of a booth, and is there a different way to showcase? Or there are always ways to negotiate with them via email. But make sure, if you select a fair, visit it first. You can already get a lot of business through just visiting and talking.
And if I may add, I think the bigger fairs have a well organized web information site where you can see the plan of last fair, for instance, where you can see, okay, is there an area where similar suppliers or typical brands or products or qualities are that you know, okay, I want to be in stage 5 or stage 4. This is very important that you have the information where, okay, how big is the fair? Do I have competitors? Do I have client, or are there products which are similar? And in this way, you be more prepared and have some information. Sites are very important.
I would like to highlight one thing. Don't have the illusion that by just participating, you will get several new buyers. It doesn't work like that. You need to promote, you need to approach, you need to mail, you need to call, you need to inform everybody that you're participating in order to get some people visiting your booth, because it's an illusion to think they will come automatically.
Right, that's a very good tip.
Sorry, Mirjam, can I add 1 or 2 things to that? So sometimes trade fairs do have side events that are focused on matchmaking, so that might be a good way to meet potential buyers. And also, of course, some trade fairs do have like country pavilions provided for by trade associations or organizations such as CBI. So if you don't have a lot of experience exhibiting at a fair, it might be a good starting point. So if there's any industry association or trade association that is setting up such international matchmaking events, I think it would be a good idea to join, or at least see if you can join.
Right, thank you. So another question to you, Edwin. To what extent, we've heard about a lot of different kind of regulations in order to even apply or to export to Europe. To what extent are apparel buyers implicated to assist their suppliers in kind of this, making these investments to comply with these regulations? What is your experience here? What do you see?
Well, as Giovanni also mentioned, okay, it follows more or less the money. Compliance is of course a very important subject, but for the bigger the client, the more information and the well-known they are in the subject. So I think if compliance is something you need to learn about, you need to see, okay, what does it take for me to go further? Then start with smaller accounts and with smaller possible clients. Because clients like Action, Zeeman, the bigger ones, they know everything. And Europe is not one country. We have 18 countries in Europe all over. So every country has more or less their own regulation situation. So that makes it very difficult. Be prepared and start small.
Yeah.
Right.
And one add-on, a buyer will not invest in you to get compliance They are there to earn money and not to lose money. And if you really are looking for help in compliance, I can highly recommend participate on programs like CBI, like GIZ, like ITC, development organizations that can help you and that can contribute to your compliance development, let's say.
Yes. Okay. We have quite a niche question regarding the Tunisian market. So I hope, Gio, you have some insights here. In terms of daily apparel and baby apparel, what would you say is kind of the potential there? Do you think it faces similar sustainability challenges as exporters from other countries?
Well, the requirements for baby wear, of course, are different than from adults. So look at legislation before you start considering export. And second, if we look at the numbers, and I'm sure Edwin can confirm, for children clothing and baby clothing, as you already saw in the data, our country is getting older. Our average family is 1.2 kids or something like that. So we don't have a lot of children, and it's going down, the number. So if you want to export baby wear to the Netherlands, better select another country. That would be my advice.
Okay.
True. At the moment, sorry, Mitte, but just to add, at the moment, other countries are much more stable in this situation. Yeah, kids are. The volume of kids is dropping, and yeah, that's for sure a situation on many discussions, but also in clothing. So yeah, be prepared on this situation. This is not an easy one. No.
Okay, and does either of you maybe know some online, hopefully free directories where you can find importers' details, buyers? Would you have some recommendations here?
Yes, Fashion United has a database of buyers. Of course, you need to do your homework. These are the brands and perhaps their head office, but the telephone number, the buyers you find on LinkedIn, for example. And second, what I always use is Zalando. Zalando is the biggest online platform. Select your product category on Zalando. Select your quality, your price level, and then you see all the brands that are selling their products on Zalando. Register those brands, find out where are their headquarters based, are they in my target market or not, and then create your database. It's work, I know, but it's the only way to get the database that you want.
All right.
Sorry, once again, I would like to refer to CBI. On the CBI website, there's a market report that is titled "How to Find Buyers," and it lists the many options and the many ways to find and also to connect with European buyers.
Okay, we have quite a specific question, which I'm going to make a little bit more general, but the question comes from a company in Mongolia who is producing felted home slippers made out of fine sheep wool. They had a cooperation with a Dutch company before COVID, but after COVID, their customer in the Netherlands has stopped the order. Would you say the market has really shifted after COVID? The Dutch market, has the interest been different? What would you kind of advise this company to do? What kind of tips could you give? Is the Netherlands still an interesting market for them?
Well,
yes, may I?
Honestly, Mongolia. Sorry, Edwin, you first. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, what I do not know the price level, of course, but what I think this is almost the perfect timing because as we explained, Holland is of course not only import but also exporting, and for sure the bigger companies in France, in Germany, in my opinion, use these kinds of products on a daily basis, and that makes it very interesting. So I'm not aware of the situation, of course, like price level or quality, But I surely think there's a lot of potential. Yeah, they need to have. I think they sold to wholesaling because more these qualities are more used by wholesaling and then sell directly to other countries. But potential is always there, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, Mongolia is very unknown generally. Yes, we know Mongolia from the Kashmir, but not from the woolen slippers. Doing business with Mongolia is a strategic decision, yes or no. China is not the question, but Mongolia is, well, does management allow or not? That's the first question. And second, generally, we consume less apparel and footwear after COVID. We spend our money on other things. Everything got more expensive, and we have cut down on our expenses, specifically on apparel and footwear. But there's another trend, which is we want products to last longer. So woolen slippers are preferred above synthetic slippers from China, for example.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I think we almost reached the time. There's one more question which kind of relates to the statistics, focusing on what are actually the top three clothing items that are the most sold in the Netherlands. Maybe Frans, can you give some insight where to find this information?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I'm feeling like a record on repeat a little bit, but these are very relevant questions, and this is actually the type of data that you can find on the CBI website. So there's a report on the general European apparel market, which also lists by volume and also by value all the different apparel categories, all the import data for all the different apparel categories. So I would really recommend having a look at the CBI website. It's all there, not just the data, but also how to interpret the data, tips and recommendations on how to do business with the EU and also with the Dutch market.
Okay, thank you so much, Frans, for that final recommendation. So that is really it for today. I want to thank our guest speakers, Frans, Edwin, Giovanni. You didn't just present your slides today, you really gave the audience some real, honest, actionable insights, and that's also what CBI's work is all about. So we're very grateful for your time and your expertise. To our audience, thank you once again for joining, for all your questions. The recording of today's webinar will be made available. Please share it with your colleagues who couldn't join us today. Make sure to check out our social media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, and of course, the free market intelligence reports on the Dutch and European apparel market on our website, cbi.eu, including buyer guides, sustainability requirements, tips for how to approach European Dutch buyers. If you haven't explored that, that is really something I strongly recommend you to start doing. We hope today was really a useful step in your journey towards exporting to the Netherlands. And I want to wish you all the best of luck, and we look forward to connecting with you in the future. Have a wonderful rest of your day.